I watched a man spit in my mother's face when I was 12 years old. We were in the parking lot of a discount grocery store. It was over a parking spot. My mother had pulled in just as a man in a large truck was trying to turn. It was a simple misunderstanding, but the man was angry. He got out of his truck. He was big, red-faced, screaming obscenities. He marched up to my mother's window. She rolled it down to apologize. And he spit on her. I sat in the passenger seat, my fists clenched, my heart hammering against my ribs. I waited for her to scream. I waited for her to get out of the car. I waited for her to do something, anything. She wiped her face with a tissue. She looked at the man with eyes that were terrifyingly empty and calm. She said, "Have a nice day, sir." And then she rolled up the window and drove away. I exploded. "Mom," I screamed, "you let him do that. You let him spit on you. What is wrong with you? You are pathetic. You are a coward." She didn't answer. She just kept driving, her knuckles white on the steering wheel, her eyes fixed on the road. That moment defined my relationship with my mother for the next 15 years. I viewed her as the weakest person I had ever met. I viewed her as a doormat, a woman who let the world walk all over her. A woman who taught her son that the only way to survive was to bow your head and take the abuse. I hated her for it. I was ashamed of her. I decided right then and there that I would never be like her. I would be strong. I would be a fighter. I would never let anyone disrespect me. I spent my life building a fortress of aggression to compensate for her passivity. Last week, my mother died of a stroke. I went back to her quiet, timid house to pack up her quiet, timid life. I felt a mix of grief and pity. Poor mom, I thought. She lived her whole life in fear. She lived her whole life apologizing for existing. I picked up her old Bible from her nightstand. It was the only book she ever read. As I lifted it, a heavy envelope slid out from the back cover and hit the floor. It wasn't a letter, it wasn't money. It was a sealed court transcript and a yellowed newspaper clipping from 30 years ago. I opened the clipping first. The headline read, "Teenage martial arts prodigy kills attacker in self-defense." There was a photo, a grainy black and white photo of a girl being led away in handcuffs. She looked fierce, she looked dangerous. It was my mother. I felt the room spin. I opened the court transcript. I read the details of the night that changed her life. The night she buried deep inside her soul. The night that created the woman I called a coward. If you have ever judged a parent for being soft, if you have ever mistaken kindness for weakness, you need to listen to this story. Please hit that subscribe button right now. I am going to tell you the truth about the weakest woman I knew and the lethal secret she kept to protect the world from herself. To understand my resentment, you have to understand the bullying. I was a small kid. I was an easy target. In middle school, there was a kid named Kyle. He tormented me. He knocked my books out of my hands. He stole my lunch money. He pushed me into lockers. I would come home crying. I would show my mother the bruises. "Mom," I would say, "I want to fight him. I want to punch him. Teach me how to hit." My mother would freeze. A look of absolute terror would cross her face. "No, Lucas," she would say, her voice would tremble. "Violence is never the answer. You walk away. You always walk away." "But he hurts me," I yelled. "If you fight him, you lose," she said. "Even if you win, you lose. Violence opens a door that you can never close. Run away." So I ran. I became known as the school coward, the track star of fleeing. I hated her for it. I thought she was teaching me to be a victim. I thought she was afraid of violence because she was weak. I thought she was afraid of Kyle. I didn't know she was afraid of me. She was afraid of the bloodline. She was afraid that if I threw one punch, I would like it. She was afraid that the same monster that lived inside her lived inside me. I rebelled. When I turned 16, I joined a boxing gym in secret. I learned to hit, I learned to move, I learned to hurt people. I loved it. It felt powerful. It felt like the opposite of my mother. I got into my first real fight at a party. A guy bumped into me. I didn't say excuse me. I didn't walk away. I broke his nose. I came home that night with bloody knuckles and a split lip. I felt like a king. My mother saw me. She dropped the plate she was holding. It shattered on the floor. "What did you do?" she whispered. "I stood up for myself," I said proudly. "I didn't run." She grabbed my hands. She looked at the blood. She started to cry, not a gentle cry, a heaving, terrified sob. "Lucas, please," she begged. "You don't know what you are doing. You have to stop. Promise me you will stop." I pulled my hands away. "You are pathetic, Mom. Just because you are scared of the world doesn't mean I have to be." I moved out a year later. I joined the Marines. I wanted to be a warrior. I wanted to be everything she wasn't. I became a man of violence, controlled violence, but violence nonetheless. I respected strength. I respected force. I visited her rarely. When I did, I felt suffocated by her gentleness. She would ask me if I was eating enough. She would ask me if I was warm. She would never ask me about my job. She couldn't bear to hear about the weapons training. She was the coward, I was the hero. That was the narrative I lived with. Until I read the newspaper clipping. Evelyn Vance, 18, a state champion in Muay Thai and Krav Maga, was attacked last night by two armed men in an alleyway behind the dojo where she trained. According to police reports, Vance disarmed the first attacker, breaking his arm. When the second attacker lunged with a knife, Vance delivered a strike to his trachea. The blow was fatal. The attacker died on the scene. The district attorney has ruled the death justifiable homicide in self-defense. No charges will be filed. I stared at the paper. My mother, the woman who cried when I killed a spider, was a state champion fighter. My mother, who let a man spit on her, had killed a man with her bare hands. I picked up the court transcript. I read her statement. "I didn't mean to kill him. It happened so fast. My body just reacted. I have been training since I was 6. I am a weapon. I didn't realize how fragile he was. I heard the sound of his throat crushing. It is a sound I will hear for the rest of my life. I hereby vow before this court and before God that I will never raise my hand in violence again. I will never strike another human being. I will retire from competition. I will live a life of peace. I will not let the monster out again." I sat on the edge of her bed. The room felt different. The silence wasn't the silence of fear. It was the silence of discipline. I thought about the parking lot. The man spitting on her. I thought she was freezing because she was scared. She wasn't scared of him. She could have killed him. She could have stepped out of that car and broken every bone in his body in 10 seconds. She knew exactly how to do it. She had the muscle memory. She wasn't gripping the steering wheel in fear. She was gripping it to restrain herself. She was holding back the lethal instinct that had been drilled into her for a decade. She let him spit on her not because she was weak, but because she knew that if she reacted, she might not stop. She knew that her reaction was a death sentence for him. She chose to be humiliated rather than become a killer again. That isn't cowardice. That is the highest form of strength I have ever imagined. I thought about the bullying. "Walk away, Lucas." She wasn't teaching me to be a victim. She was trying to break the cycle. She was terrified that if I learned to fight, I would end up like her. She was terrified that I would have the same talent for violence. She wanted to save me from the guilt of hurting someone. She wanted to save me from the sound of a crushing windpipe. She loved me enough to let me think she was weak, just so I wouldn't seek out the kind of strength that destroyed her soul. As I looked at the Bible, I opened it to the bookmark. It was marked at Matthew 5:5. "Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth." In the margins, she had written, "Meekness is not weakness. Meekness is power under control. It is a sword kept in its sheath." And she was the sword. And she kept herself sheathed for 30 years. She took the insults, she took the disrespect. She took the mockery of her own son. She endured the reputation of a coward to protect the vow she made to God. I felt a wave of shame so hot it burned my skin. I had walked around strutting, thinking I was a tough guy because I could throw a punch. I was a child. Real toughness isn't hitting back. Real toughness is having the power to destroy someone and choosing mercy instead. Real toughness is letting someone spit on you because you value their life more than your own pride. I drove to the dojo, the one mentioned in the article. It was still there in the old part of the city. I walked in, an old man was sweeping the mats. I asked him, "Did you know Evelyn Vance?" He stopped sweeping, he looked at me, he looked at my eyes. "You must be her son," he said. I nodded. He smiled sadly. "Evelyn, she was the best student I ever had, a prodigy. She moved like water, she hit like lightning." I asked, "Why did she quit?" He leaned on the broom. "Because she had a heart. Most fighters, they like the hurt. Evelyn hated it. When that boy died, it broke her. She told me she was pregnant. She told me she was going to raise her son to be a healer, not a fighter. She laid her black belt on this mat and walked out. She never came back." He paused. "She sent me a letter every year, though. She told me about you. She worried about you. She said you had the fire. She was so scared the fire would burn you." I walked out of the dojo. I sat in my car and cried. I cried for the mother I didn't know. I cried for the warrior who disguised herself as a saint. I thought about all the times I called her pathetic. "You let them walk all over you, Mom." She wasn't letting them walk on her. She was the ground. She was the earth. She was absorbing the impact so the world wouldn't break. I went back to her house. I took the newspaper clipping, I framed it. I hung it in my living room. When people come over, they ask, "Who is that girl? She looks intense." I tell them that is my mother. She was the most dangerous woman in the state, and she was the gentlest soul who ever lived. I left the Marines. I stopped fighting. I work as a counselor now. I work with kids who have anger issues, kids who want to fight. I teach them how to breathe. I teach them how to walk away. I tell them walking away isn't running, walking away is winning. I tell them about the woman in the parking lot. I tell them that the strongest person in the room is usually the quietest. I am sharing this story because we live in a world that glorifies aggression. We think the person who yells the loudest is the winner. We think the person who hits back is the hero. We look down on the peaceful. We call them snowflakes. We call them soft. But you don't know what kind of beast is sleeping inside that soft person. You don't know the restraint it takes to be kind in a cruel world. If you have a parent who refuses to fight, if you have a parent who apologizes when they shouldn't, if you have a parent who turns the other cheek, don't call them a coward. They might be a retired warrior. They might be holding back a hurricane to keep you safe in the breeze. My mother could have broken that man in the parking lot. Instead, she broke her own ego. And that is a victory I am still trying to understand. Please call your mom. Tell her she is strong. Tell her you admire her peace. Because peace is hard work, peace is a heavy lift. If this story changed your definition of strength, please share it. Share it for the peacemakers. Share it for the hidden warriors. And in the comments, tell me, who is the strongest person you know? Is it the fighter or is it the forgiver? Let's honor the gentle. Hit subscribe. We tell the truth here, even when the truth is hidden in a Bible. Rest in peace, Mom. You fought the good fight. You kept the faith. You finished the race.